Hi, how are you? It's
I'm
been more
good.
than
How are
4 years
you?
that we spoke.
Oh my goodness. Yes,
And I
it's
think
been a
6 years
long
since
time.
we met. More than 5 years since we met.
Yeah. 2020,
2015.
15 at Regeneration 3.
Yeah, in Lausanne, Switzerland.
Yeah. It's been a long time. And to think that I actually only realized after I left that you got the TNE, you were part of TNE.
Yeah, I was part of TNE also. That was in 2013. Yeah.
Because I was 20, I got the TNE in 2012, so you got it the year
Nice.
afterwards.
Yeah.
I was like, how come we never really got to get to that part?
How did that first initial sort of connection happen?
There were a lot of discussions and after parties. I think that helped. Mostly the after parties.
I think that was before we got to the after parties. Um, we all met up because of the selection of Regeneration 3 was from people that had gotten some recognition for their photographic work, where the Regeneration curators then made a selection, and there we found ourselves in Lausanne, and we met. I've got the catalog here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Oh shit, she
It's a
remembers.
little bit dark, but this is
Yeah, it
it's a
was.
portrait of a monk, if I'm not mistaken,
Wow.
looking away from the camera, and it's taken in black and white. So, oopsie.
I was using the spatial metaphor for the mind space, how they're, and this was a staged picture. So there I got to a inkling. So now I do more of constructed photography.
Mm-hmm.
At that time I was exploring it, and first I documented them, and it was very different language. But then towards the end, I used some of these Hindi scriptures, which are in Sanskrit, and people don't really understand it, and how they have been mistranslated and misguided to believe in certain things, which is the vested interest of the Krishna consciousness. And they use very strong language, very misogynist language, and you cannot question the text. You have to accept them because they have been deliberated by people who kind of take it to their advantage. So I use some spatial metaphors and stage these people in terms of how they lose their own individual thinking, and they just submit to it.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. But it was very dark, and now my language is more subtle.
With me incorporating myself and staging some narratives in my work is primarily because I don't have images of myself growing up or images of family. So my family didn't really take any images, or they didn't even own a camera. So it was interesting when people are talking about family history and recording some events in their lives. To me, everything was just not a blank. It just didn't exist in a tangible form. It only existed in my head or in my memory or from what my siblings would tell me. So it started off like that, and I realized that, well, now that I do have access to a camera, and I'm a photographer by training, I can sort of like relive or talk about my own story by documenting myself as much as I can and incorporating myself in my pictures, even though I do take it overboard. I think it's too much seeing my face all the time, but it's almost like to compensate for the time where we didn't really record anything. So yeah, I think having what is it in English? The absence of a camera, although it was in a way disadvantaging the family in terms of having a record of our life, it's also an advantage because now I'm able to reconstruct things using objects and symbols and fabric and like the blankets or the bags, and almost like abstractly show people how, I don't know if I'm putting it right.
I remember this documentary by Chris Marker where he says how memory is like much like history. So with the fluidity of not having a tangible, how you can reconstruct it all the time. the absence of it can also give a presence of something which was an essence of it, which remains. So in a way, that's what we are talking about.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. That way, yeah.
When it comes to connection and how we are experiencing connection now with COVID-19 and with most people being on lockdown. And I've been thinking a lot about how we are now praising, which is good, the fact that we are able to connect with people virtually, and we are able to have conversations with other creatives. A perfect example is what we're doing now. We are on different parts of the country and the different parts of the world, and we're able to share stories using technological platforms. And that is a pretty exciting space to be in. And in a way, it also makes it makes the lockdown less stressful. But when I think of how my work has evolved now from making the China bags and being an educator and realizing that as much as we are finding these technological tools that are making it easy for us to connect, a large population is being left behind, where people, not everybody is necessarily able to connect in the way that we are connecting now. I'm seeing a lot of gap or a lot of things that are being cleared in terms of the social structures or the social construction with regards to access to technology and access to data that connects people, and especially from a an educational point of view. For example, now in South Africa, we've been moving online, we've been teaching online, and the people in the rural areas can't even move beyond using the blackboard or using a tangible book. And I know that in some villages, some teachers have opted to have a village board where lessons are being written on the village board. So as much as we are moving forward in terms of being able to connect and using these platforms for connection, there's a large population out there that is still not there yet. So this lockdown to me is making me realize a whole lot of things about us as people and the social dynamics that we find ourselves in.
Also the way different apps are kind of created, and how, you know, like people just having the skills to make use of what is available to them, challenging people to step into a new space. Even with it, like how our connection has been breaking up, it's continuously infringing on the connection you're trying to create, and actually ends up, I don't know, creating some kind of weird antagonism. But I guess those are more subtle things.
I think it's very unfortunate, the situation presented to us, but in a way, regardless of the classes or the accessibility to media, it's a time for self-reflection, which for me, I think people have never spent that kind of time to kind of dig within. I know it's a very artistic perspective and all, but even people who are, my uncles have never actually taken a break since they have worked for like 40 years. Like they won't have taken a break for like 3 days in a row, and they're sitting for a month. What kind of happens with their mindset and what kind of investment they are doing onto themselves? It is like understanding your own self, which is which is kind of forced, ironically, but it is much needed. So in that perspective, I think it's very helpful. Another very interesting bit is that in India, the communication technology is much cheaper than the West, I feel. So even people in villages, they are very much connected with the internet. So all the data, as we say, is much cheaper. And in that sense, it gives them a bit of a recluse. It gives them a bit of a space to kind of release and connect. But yeah, like you said, in villages and in remote places where such even network is not there, people, I don't know how they're functioning right now. I have no idea. In fact, before post the lockdown, I was more occupied with all these live chat shows and all the photographers, so many artists coming live, book readings happening. And I actually like spending time with myself. There's so much to explore. Also, being a freelancers, we are more equipped to handle these situations. We have spent so much time on our own, like, so it's not that.
Yeah.
I've been working pretty much because I'm a full-time lecturer. So I've been spending too much time on Zoom, like Michaela had said, with live lectures and inspiration session for my students. And yeah, I actually haven't even had time to just relax and to just think about stuff. But I think, yeah, it's been just constant going and going and going from my side. And I've been taking some shots to just, I don't know, to keep sane with regards to all the things that are happening and uploading those on Instagram. But I think now that Michaela started this closer than ever, maybe we should carry on with the conversation, and it will be good to just see how our work has evolved and what we're busy doing, and I don't know, see if something can come out of this, like an exhibition, or I don't know. I think it's the beginning of something.
We understand it to a different degree, but I think there is a level of connection that we're missing, not only within ourselves, but with each other, that isn't necessarily technological or visual.
Or she is frozen now. Her connection
is frozen.
Okay, for a change.
You couldn't.
I'm sorry for that. I still can't go in. I think I've run out of